Pay attention to the woman walking into Cascade Mountain State Forest at 9:17 a.m. on July 22nd. Her name is Brooke Ashford. She's 31 years old, wearing hiking boots, athletic leggings, and a teal tank top. She's carrying a small daypack with water, trail mix, and her phone. Battery at 94%. She planned to hike the Ridgeline Trail, a moderate 6.5-mile loop known for its waterfall views, and be back at the trailhead by 1 p.m. Now, watch the trail camera footage from the forest entrance. Brooke pauses at the trailhead kiosk, checks the posted map, and starts up the path. The camera captures her entering the tree line at 9:18 a.m. She's smiling. She's alone. She has no reason to be afraid. The timestamp reads 9:18 a.m. Within 6 hours, her boyfriend would call park rangers in a panic. Within 12 hours, search and rescue teams would be combing the forest. And within 9 days, investigators would discover that the helpful park volunteer who'd offered to show her a shortcut to the waterfall was not a volunteer at all. This was not a random encounter. It was a carefully planned abduction by someone who'd been waiting in those woods for weeks. Brooke Ashford was a physical therapist at a sports medicine clinic in Bellingham, Washington. She was an experienced hiker who had explored trails throughout the Pacific Northwest. She documented her adventures on Instagram, photos of mountain vistas, forest streams, wildflowers. Her account had over 3,000 followers. She was in a serious relationship with Dylan Crawford, a software engineer she'd been dating for 2 years. They lived together in the apartment in Bellingham's Fairhaven neighborhood. They hiked together often, but Dylan had to work the morning of July 22nd. Brooke decided to go alone. She'd hiked the Ridgeline Trail twice before and knew it well. She left their apartment at 8:15 a.m. She sent Dylan a text at 8:47 a.m. At the trailhead, should be back by 1:30. Love you. She posted a photo to Instagram at 9:15 a.m. A selfie at the trailhead kiosk with the caption, "Perfect day for a hike." She never returned to the parking lot. Dylan expected Brooke home by 2 p.m. When she didn't arrive by 3, he texted her. No response. He called. The phone rang twice and went to voicemail. By 3:30, Dylan was concerned. Brooke was always punctual, always responsive. He called the park ranger station at Cascade Mountain State Forest. Ranger Tom Vasquez took the call. He confirmed that a vehicle matching Brooke's car, a silver Honda CR-V, was still in the Ridgeline Trailhead parking lot. Vasquez hiked the trail himself, calling Brooke's name, looking for any sign of her. He found nothing. At 5 p.m., Dylan drove to the trailhead. Brooke's car sat alone in the parking lot. Her keys were not in it. Her purse was not in it. Everything appeared normal, except Brooke was gone. Dylan called 911. Whatcom County Search and Rescue deployed at 6:15 p.m. Teams of volunteers and park rangers spread out across the Ridgeline Trail and surrounding areas. They called Brooke's name. They searched side trails, creek beds, dense undergrowth. K9 units tracked Brooke's scent from the trailhead up the main path for approximately 2 miles, then lost the trail near a junction with an unmaintained service road. The search continued through the night. By dawn on July 23rd, over 50 people were involved in the operation. Detective Angela Ramos of the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office arrived at 7 a.m. She was a 16-year veteran specializing in missing persons cases. She reviewed the initial reports and requested Brooke's phone records and social media accounts. Brooke's phone last pinged a cell tower at 9:42 a.m. on July 22nd. The ping placed her approximately 1.8 miles up the Ridgeline Trail. After that, nothing. The phone either powered off or lost signal. Ramos pulled the trail camera footage from the entrance kiosk. The cameras were motion activated, maintained by the State Parks Department to monitor visitor traffic and wildlife. The footage showed Brooke entering the forest at 9:18 a.m. She appeared relaxed, confident. Ramos reviewed footage from the hours following Brooke's entry. At 9:47 a.m., a man exited the trail. He was approximately 6 feet tall, muscular build, wearing dark cargo pants and a gray long-sleeve shirt. He carried a large hiking backpack. He walked directly to a white Ford Ranger pickup truck, parked at the far end of the lot. The truck left the parking area at 9:52 a.m. Ramos zoomed in on the license plate. She could make out the full number, WFD 8921. She ran the registration. The vehicle was registered to Vernon Baptiste, a 39-year-old Haitian immigrant living in Cedro Woolley, 20 miles south of Bellingham. Ramos pulled Baptiste's background. No criminal record. He worked as a landscaper for a commercial property maintenance company. He'd lived in Washington for 7 years. He was unmarried, no children. Ramos requested a photo from his driver's license. She showed it to Ranger Vasquez and other park staff. None recognized him as a regular visitor or volunteer. The State Parks Department confirmed Baptiste was not a registered volunteer. He had no official affiliation with Cascade Mountain State Forest. On July 24th, Ramos obtained a warrant for Baptiste's residence and vehicle. The entry team arrived at Baptiste's home at 6 a.m. on July 25th. The house was a small rental property on the outskirts of Cedro Woolley, surrounded by woods. The white Ford Ranger was parked in the gravel driveway. Officers knocked. No answer. They used a battering ram on the front door. The house was empty. Baptiste was gone. The interior was sparsely furnished. A futon in the living room, a card table and folding chairs in the kitchen, a mattress on the floor in the bedroom. The refrigerator contained minimal food. The bathroom had basic toiletries. But in the bedroom closet, investigators found a laptop and a plastic storage bin. The bin contained items that made Ramos's blood run cold. Women's driver's licenses, jewelry, hiking gear, phones. 7 different women. 7 faces. Brooke Ashford's Washington State driver's license was among them. Ramos's team worked frantically to identify the other women. The licenses belonged to women aged 26 to 38, all from Washington State. 4 had been reported missing over the past 18 months. All had disappeared while hiking alone in state forests in Whatcom and Skagit counties. The other 2 women had never been reported missing. Ramos would later learn they were transient, estranged from family. None of the women had been found. The laptop was password protected. Digital forensics specialists cracked it within hours. What they found was chilling. The laptop contained photographs of women hiking, candid shots taken from a distance, showing women on trails, at trailheads, near waterfalls. There were spreadsheets tracking women's hiking patterns, names, vehicle descriptions, license plates, dates and times of trail visits. There were GPS coordinates for locations deep in the forest, places far off established trails. And there was a folder titled Schedule. Inside were screenshots of Instagram posts from women who documented their hikes publicly. Brooke Ashford's Instagram was bookmarked. Baptiste had been monitoring her account for months. Vernon Baptiste had been hunting women in the state forests. A statewide alert was issued. Baptiste's photo was distributed to every law enforcement agency in Washington and neighboring states. His truck was added to the national database. Search and rescue teams returned to Cascade Mountain State Forest with the GPS coordinates from Baptiste's laptop. There were 6 locations, all in remote areas accessible only by overgrown service roads or on foot. The first 2 sites yielded nothing. Dense forest, no signs of disturbance. The third site was different. It was a ravine approximately 4 miles from the Ridgeline Trail, accessible only by an abandoned logging road. The area was thick with ferns and fallen timber. Search teams found a disturbed section of earth, recently dug, poorly concealed with branches and moss. They began excavating carefully. At a depth of 3 feet, they found human remains. The recovery operation took 6 hours. Forensic teams uncovered the remains of 3 individuals, all female, buried in shallow graves within a 10-meter radius. DNA analysis would eventually identify them as 3 of the missing hikers. Amanda Sheffield, 29, who disappeared 15 months earlier. Natasha Geller, 34, missing for 11 months. And Cassidy Monroe, 27, who'd vanished 8 months ago. All 3 had been reported missing after hiking alone in state forests. All 3 had documented their hikes on social media. The search teams moved to the remaining GPS coordinates. At the 4th location, a clearing near an old fire road, they found 2 more graves. At the 5th location, they found one grave. At the 6th location, they found nothing. The coordinates led to a crude shelter constructed from tarps and fallen timber, hidden deep in the woods. Inside were supplies, bottled water, canned food, rope, zip ties, a shovel. Brooke Ashford was not at any of the sites. The manhunt for Vernon Baptiste became a regional priority. His photo was on every news station. Tips flooded in, but none led to credible sightings. Baptiste's employer confirmed he hadn't reported to work since July 21st, the day before Brooke's disappearance. On July 28th, a Border Patrol agent at the Peace Arch crossing between Washington and British Columbia reported detaining a man matching Baptiste's description, attempting to cross into Canada on foot, away from official checkpoints. Baptiste was arrested without incident. He refused to speak. He requested an attorney immediately. The interrogation lasted 4 hours. Baptiste was shown the evidence, the laptop, the photographs, the driver's licenses, the GPS coordinates, the graves. He was shown Brooke Ashford's photo. Baptiste remained silent. His attorney eventually stopped the session. Investigators had recovered 6 bodies. Brooke Ashford remained missing. Ramos returned to the GPS coordinates. She studied Baptiste's laptop files again, looking for any location she might have missed. She found a 7th set of coordinates, handwritten in a notebook found in Baptiste's truck, not entered into his digital files. The coordinates led to a location 12 miles from the Ridgeline Trailhead, deep in the most remote section of the forest. On July 30th, search teams reached the site. It was an old hunter's cabin, abandoned decades ago, barely visible through overgrown vegetation. The door hung crooked on rusted hinges. Inside, they found Brooke Ashford. She was alive, barely conscious, severely dehydrated, malnourished. Her wrists and ankles bore ligature marks, but she was breathing. Paramedics transported her to Peace Health St. Joseph Medical Center in Bellingham. She was treated for dehydration, exposure, psychological trauma, and injuries consistent with prolonged restraint. Brooke could not speak coherently for the first 24 hours. When she finally could, her account was fragmented. She remembered hiking up the Ridgeline Trail. She remembered a man approaching from a side trail, wearing what looked like a park volunteer vest. He told her there was a rock slide ahead, that the main trail was closed, that he could show her an alternate route to the waterfall. She'd trusted him. He'd seemed official, knowledgeable, friendly. He'd led her off the main trail onto the service road, and then he'd pulled a cloth from his backpack and pressed it over her face. The next thing she remembered was darkness, cold, being unable to move, waking to find herself in the cabin, bound and alone. Baptiste had visited twice, bringing water and packaged food, speaking to her in calm tones, telling her she was special, that she belonged in the forest, that he was protecting her from the world. Brooke Ashford had been held captive for 8 days. Vernon Baptiste was charged with 6 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of kidnapping, aggravated assault, and unlawful restraint. The trial began on March 11th of the following year. Brooke testified. She described Baptiste's approach on the trail, his convincing performance as a park volunteer, her decision to follow him. She described the terror of waking in the cabin, bound and alone in the wilderness. She described the 8 days of captivity, the isolation, the fear that she would die there. Forensic experts presented the evidence recovered from the graves: DNA, personal effects, causes of death. Pathologists testified that the victims had died from blunt force trauma, consistent with being struck with a heavy object. Digital forensic specialists walked the jury through Baptiste's laptop, the photographs, the spreadsheets, the Instagram monitoring, the calculated pattern of surveillance and selection. The prosecution argued that Baptiste had been targeting women for nearly 2 years, specifically seeking hikers who posted their locations publicly on social media. He'd studied their patterns, waited in the forest, and struck when they were most vulnerable. Baptiste's defense team argued diminished capacity. They presented evidence of Baptiste's difficult past. He'd fled political violence in Haiti at age 24, lost family members to gang violence, suffered from untreated PTSD. A psychologist testified that Baptiste exhibited symptoms of severe trauma-related psychosis. The prosecution acknowledged Baptiste's traumatic history. Lead prosecutor Ellen Cho was direct in her closing argument. Trauma may explain behavior, but it does not justify it. Brooke Ashford and the 6 murdered women had done nothing to Vernon Baptiste. They had simply wanted to enjoy the outdoors, and he had decided they belonged to him. The jury deliberated for 13 hours, guilty on all counts. Vernon Baptiste was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole for the murders, plus an additional 50 years for the kidnapping of Brooke Ashford. Brooke Ashford spent 4 months in intensive trauma therapy following her rescue. She could not return to hiking alone. She could not enter forests without experiencing severe anxiety and panic attacks. She and Dylan moved to Seattle, away from the mountains, closer to the ocean. Brooke took a medical leave from her job. For nearly a year, she struggled with nightmares, hypervigilance, and depression. Slowly, with therapy and Dylan's support, Brooke began to rebuild. She started hiking again, only on urban trails, only with companions, never in remote areas. The forests that had once brought her joy now brought only fear. 2 years after her abduction, Brooke began speaking publicly about her experience. She advocates for better safety protocols for solo hikers and pushes for restrictions on how location data is shared on social media platforms. She lobbied successfully for Washington House Bill 2847, which requires state forests to install enhanced trail camera systems at all major trailheads and mandates real-time monitoring during peak hiking seasons. The law also funds a trail safety app that allows hikers to check in at designated points and alerts rangers if check-ins are missed. The law is known as Brooke's Law. Cascade Mountain State Forest upgraded its safety protocols. Trail cameras were expanded to cover not just trailheads but major junctions along popular routes. Rangers increased patrols of parking areas. Signs were posted warning hikers about sharing precise location data on social media. The families of the 6 murdered women, Amanda Sheffield, Natasha Geller, Cassidy Monroe, and the 3 others, were finally able to hold funerals and find closure. Their cases, unsolved for months or years, were closed. Brooke's Instagram account still exists, but she no longer posts about hiking locations. Her bio now reads, "Survivor, Advocate, Share Responsibly." Dylan keeps a photograph on his desk at work. It's from a vacation he and Brooke took to the Oregon coast, both smiling on a beach, mountains visible in the distance, but far away. He looks at that photograph every day. It reminds him how close he came to losing her. It reminds him that Brooke survived. Brooke Ashford walked into the forest planning a peaceful morning hike. She walked into a nightmare instead, but she walked out. That's what matters most.